Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw and I'm ecstatic to be joined by my fellow colleagues Michael Gannon and Keith Jackson. Guys, how are you?
Not bad, chaps. Not bad.
No, I'm not ecstatic or anything. Have you got one of these wee things where it's a new word every day?
You did the word
One
of
of
the day
these-
toilet paper.
Yeah. Okay. So ecstatic we're on to now. Are we doing it alphabetically?
Aye, well, you'll need to tune in on Sunday and find
No,
out.
because we can't, because delighted, you've been delighted a few times.
That's
So
right.
reverse. Right, okay. I'm just catching up.
A lot of people, Mick, are more than delighted, more than ecstatic today. The Celtic fans after last night's match against Slovan Bratislava. The three of us spoke before the game and we made our predictions. No one predicted 5-1.
No, listen, it was beyond expectations and hopes really for most fans. I did fancy them to win the game. I didn't think they'd win it that emphatically. And in fairness, Celtic played really, really well. I mean, I mentioned it in my kind of analysis last night in the paper and online that it was Celtic turned a Champions League game into a Scottish Premiership game. It was no different to the Kilmarnock, Hibs, St Johnstone and the Rangers game. I thought it was very similar to the Rangers game. Actually took 10-15 minutes to kind of work out what was going on. And once you figured it out, it was one-way traffic and that was it, done and dusted. Really, really comprehensive. And by the way, it was 5-1 and that was the least it could have been. Mm-hmm. I mean, they should really have been 2 or 3 ahead by half time. I mean, Kyogo missed 2 sitters. Dyson Maeda missed a sitter. It's at half time that you're thinking 1-0 should be 3 or 4. This is going to come back to bite them. But they come out the second half, all guns blazing. And you could actually see, it actually happened before half time. It was about 10 minutes before half time. Celtic were really dominant. And one of the Bratislava fullbacks get spoken to for either time waste to get to half time. And you think this lot look beaten. They actually looked as though this is too much for us. Everything was too much. The atmosphere was too much. The intensity was too much. Celtic, who, by the way, Bratislava are a big side, they're all big strapping boys. I mean, they looked like a tough physical side. Celtic matched them, they had them for pace, and they just looked a beaten team before half time. They got in at the break, and then they came out afterwards and Celtic just blitzed them in the second half. And it was a really, really impressive performance and a good start. I mean, listen, we're sitting here in uncharted territory. Celtic have never won an opening game in the Champions League, so the fans are right to be kind of excited because it's never happened before. You've got to caveat it with the fact it's the weakest team in the competition, who weren't very good, let's be honest. But it's the Champions League, it's 3 points, they're off to a flyer. And this opens the door to the possibility of qualification to the knockout stages. Because if it didn't get a result last night, we touched on it last night in the game, but if it didn't get a result last night, they're going to be playing catch-up. They're going to find a result from somewhere. Now they're ahead of the game, they get some goals in the bank, and the confidence is obviously soaring through the team as well. So no, it was a good night's work for them.
Michael, the thing is, right, when you look at it, it's actually fascinating to look at the table from the Champions League phase, where you've got the 36 teams. See Celtic sitting in second place. I mean, it's no wonder Brendan walked into the press conference. All right, his joke didn't really land the way I'm sure he wanted it to, but it just doesn't Bayern Munich in the final now. But who cares? The bottom line is that looks like a sight for sore eyes for Celtic supporters to see that. And what I find interesting, right, when you've got it in front of me here. So yeah, brilliant. Bayern Munich top, Celtic second place, and then the list of everybody else that we know is involved. But once you get down to the bottom of this table, and granted, one game in, match day 1, in 32nd place, Club Brugge, in 34th place, Young Boys of Bern, in 35th, Slovan Bratislava, and 36th, Dinamo Zagreb. Now, I don't have to tell you, that's a delightful bit of reading for the Celtic fans, considering the games that are coming up. When Bruges at home, Zagreb, they've just sacked their manager on the back of getting scalped 9-1 by Bayern. Young Boys at home. I mean, it's hard to imagine how match day 1 could have looked any better for Celtic in terms of the level of performance, the results, the damage done to other teams that Celtic will face later on in the section, the confidence levels among the players, because I think that's huge. And this is learning on the job. But what a chance they've given themselves. Now, I think one of the hardest things for Brendan Rodgers now will be managing expectations, because this is going to go through the roof. Already you're hearing Celtic fans and bookies saying, Celtic could qualify for the last 16 directly by finishing in the top eight of this table. I think that's a long shot, and I think there's going to be bumps along the way. And I would probably predict that 3 games into this, Celtic will still be sat in 3 points, because Dortmund away, followed by Atalanta away, is just hard work. But I tell you what, see if they were to pick up something there, then you might have to reassess your thinking and think, maybe top 8, maybe it might not be beyond them. I think 3 points, you're in a good position anyway, with these games to follow. But the level of excitement now, that's Celtic have threatened and promised to deliver on the big stage without backing up for a long, long time. But there's planning and strategy went into this campaign. Brendan Rodgers has forced the arm of the people above him to provide him with the quality that he's been crying out for all this time. Celtic look ready. It doesn't feel as if they're going in hoping to be ready. They look ready in that performance last night, albeit against Bratislava, but you can't ask for more than that. 5 goals, opening night, sitting second in this table. There's so much ahead of this Celtic side here. And I think the crucial part being, as I said, they will learn on the job. I think they will finish. I think they've got a great chance of finishing, in the playoff positions, which is target achieved. But see the learnings along the way to get there. The experience they'll pick up as a team from these games that are coming. I just think it puts them in a great place. Celtic are, and genuinely, I don't think they could have envisaged a better position than the one that they're currently occupying at the start of this season.
No, I agree. I would urge a bit of caution, right enough. I mean, looking at young boys get beat 3-0 by who? Aston Villa, who Celtic play against.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Get beat 3-0 at home by who? Dortmund, who they play next. So that suggests that they might not be that strong, or is it the other position is really strong? That's the thing. So you're still playing against really good sides. There's a lot of work still to be done. They go to Dortmund, and then they've got Atalanta. And it's RB Leipzig in Glasgow. Not an easy game. To be honest with you, that's a game you take a point from right now and start the handoff for it, I think.
It's funny, I identified that. That's the game that's going to really tell you everything. The one last night was essential that Celtic started with a win. They've got it. The Leipzig game at home for me is the one where we'll really know about their credentials, because they'll have very difficult away games in Dortmund and Atalanta. If they can beat Leipzig at home, wow, that's 6 points from 4. 6 points from 6 at home. They're almost there at that point.
Yeah, there's so much that can happen though. I mean, you're looking at Celtic last night. They're at full strength, 8 team out, really at full capacity, played really well. But there's going to be times when there's going to be guys injured. There's going to be guys suspended. There's going to be times when they need to patch it together to play. They've got a squad now. You think they have got the provision to cope with that to some extent, unlike last year when they lost Hatate early on last year.
Yeah.
Carter Vickers, massive blows to the squad. They're a bit more insulated this year to handle those kind of occasions, but they're still going to get hit with these moments. They're going to have to play. They could end up playing a game against Bruges, a must-win, without a Callum McGregor, or without a Kyogo, without a Dyson.
Carter Vickers getting that booking last night. If you're Brendan Rodgers, you'd be tearing your hair out a little bit of that one, because he just didn't need to do it. The game was won.
Yeah.
And he's. I'm not saying he's walking a tightrope, but if you were to look at that Celtic squad, you can say, well, do you know what? You can just about cover for, somebody's coming out of midfield, or somebody's fullbacks can change. Carter Vickers is one of the guys. There's probably about 3 or 4 of them that you say absolutely team gets weaker without them.
Yeah,
but they don't have that level of replacement available. So I think that was a silly moment for Carter Vickers. But
he's also a guy that needs to be wrapped in cotton wool big time, because I mean, obviously after the Rangers game, he came off with the moon boot at the stadium. He played in the game against Hearts coming back last night. Obviously taken off towards the end after the work was done. But he's a guy I think that will need to be managed as well. He came back after a long-term injury last season. He's used to playing through a level of pain barrier. That's just what he does, right? I think that's just part of his makeup. And it might not be that he gets to 100% all the time. He'll still play, but he might be managed. People think that Austin Trusty is going to eventually be the Liam Scales replacement, and I can take. I mean, the left-sided centre half, so that makes sense, right? But I think there's going to be occasions very soon as well that he might also be the backup for Carter Vickers, especially domestically, purely because he needs to be managed as well, because they want to keep him fit for the big games because he is such a key player. Again, I thought he was brilliant last night at times as well. A few wee moments moments early on, but he reads the game so well, and he managed to snuff out most of the danger before it materialised. So I think he's got to be a Cotton Will job for a while. So interesting to see how he manages it.
Fascinating to see what the Celtic team looks like at the weekend, isn't it? Given that it's the League Cup.
You'll see significant changes, I'd imagine. You'll see Adam Uda, Paulo Bernardo, you'll see Trusty. You might see Alec Baye in there. Ralston, yeah. I think you'll see all these guys getting a run out. And by the way, maybe look McCowan, but they all need minutes as well to find out if they're going to be the players that can step in when these moments come during the Champions League, when they need somebody else to come in. Because it will happen. It's guaranteed it will happen. It's a long campaign. So I think there'll be big changes this weekend for the Cup game. But you look at, we've mentioned it before, the strength and depth. You look at Bernardo coming in, Ida coming in. These guys are solid performers that could play most weeks anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look as though it's going to weaken Celtic, and it's a case of maintaining the momentum, isn't it?
And this is exactly what we've been talking about, why Brendan Rodgers was wanting the board to push the boat out a little bit, to bring in that increased level of quality, because it does allow them to make these changes without there being a massive drop-off in performance levels you would expect. I could see, 7, 8, 9 potential changes to that starting 11 at the weekend. And I would still think Celtic will be way, way, way too strong.
Oh yeah, if you're big on £9 million strikers and all that stuff. I was at the Falkirk Hearts game in the last round, and Falkirk were terrific. I mean, really well. They rode the storm in the first kind of 20 minutes. The Hearts missed a few chances, but after that, I'd done a total job on Hearts. A John McGlynn masterclass. It was brilliant. Really impressive. It's a good side. But Celtic are bringing in £3.5 million Bernardo, £9 million Ida, Barcelona player Alec Baye. It's not really a fair fight either. But it's like, again, Celtic can't afford to take the eye off the ball, really, because it's a cup tie and it's all or nothing. So it's again, they need to win. But it should still be too strong.
Obviously, it's the Hotline Live, guys, and we've had a plethora of comments on Record Sports social media channels. And if you're watching at home, please get involved in the discussion. Right, let me throw a few of them at you, because understandably, there's a lot of Celtic fans who are very, very excited by last night's showing. Amanda Burns, what a performance tonight. Absolute joy to watch. The way Brendan has the team playing, even the newbies in a short space of time, is a total dream. Davy O'Donnell, one of the loudest games I've attended, and I've been to a few. This one from Mark Moore. Celtic were phenomenal and proved we are a Champions League elite team. We are too good for Scottish football. This one from Michael Thomas. Last night's victory was a major step in the right direction, but let's not get carried away just yet. We still have better opposition to play, home and away. There's a few like that as well, guys, that, urging a bit of caution. But
I don't mind that.
Yeah.
Let me finish on this one, though. This one, though, from Sean on Facebook. Celtic are currently the best team in Europe, the world even. Keep this up, we can go all the way to the final. I can see us as European champions. So, Sean's not quite
got
the memo about taking it easy yet. But
good luck, dude. Sean's having a good 48 hours.
The thing is, though, like you said it, Mick, that it was they're kind of like with all due respect, they were a bit like a Premiership team, Slovan Bratislava, but all due disrespect.
I genuinely got to about an hour in. I thought this feels like a regular Saturday afternoon midweek covering the Scottish football this season, and perhaps in Brendan's first reign and latterly under Postecoglou, it felt very much like a domestic game. The team looked kind of beaten. the manager looked like had this hangdog expression. I mean, Vladimir Weiss, the second or junior or senior, we don't know what it is.
The middle.
The middle Vladimir Weiss was looked a bit depressed. That look, I mentioned it again. I mentioned it. He looked like one of those the Scottish Premiership managers who were like thinking, "Going to get me out of here. Enough's enough, right? Let's get us out of here. Any more damage? This has been a bit of a spanking. Let's get me up the road." I mean, Vladimir Weiss, the third, the young one, when they came off. I mean, that's a boy that needed a big hug, didn't he? He had a nightmare. I mean, he got dogs abuse from the crowd from the start. Obviously, his ex-Rangers connections. But he seemed, I mean, he's 34 years old. You think, Vladimir, surely at 34, you realise not to take the bait, right? But he took the bait, get himself an absolute tiz, was charging about any tackles, gave away the corner for the goal, got himself booked, got clattered by Arthur Johnson, missed a sitter, and he's having an absolute shocker. By the second half, he looked like a broken man. He came off to a big hug. It was almost like, off to your bed, Vladimir. Had a bad day. Put the jammies on, get up to your bed. Tomorrow's a new day. I mean, and listen, the fair play to him, he came out and he fronted up to us after the game in the mix zone. He spoke to us and he looked a bit chastised. He said, "I'll get booed." He said, "I take it." I said some daft things when I first played here last time round. Probably took my dunce. It was and fair play to him. But he should have had that kind of composure on the pitch because he lost his marbles quite early on and never regained them.
I did feel that Engels has really done him for the booking, though, didn't you? I mean, I don't know if you've seen it in slow motion. I know you had been at the game, but
yeah,
the replays, Engels actually falls down about 5 yards after the tackle comes.
It was, there was a kind of the noise as well. I mean, to be honest with you, in real time, you think, "Oh, he's done him. It's a bad one," but then you see it again, you're like, "Oh, maybe he's just a bit cute." But to be honest with you, he didn't get booked for that challenge. He booked for about 5 before that. He was running about like a bull in a China shop.
That's
he
true.
really was.
Yeah.
And the thing was, as soon as he get booked, actually in the same instant, he get clattered straight after it as well. So he get thumped and booked, and he was like, "Oh, just up the road."
I mean, bruising night.
I mean, even his dad had to sum him eventually. I mean, that's how bad it is. Your old man's going to take you off at the end, send you to bed with a cocoa. But it had that kind of feeling that Celtic were so dominant that they couldn't keep up. But it was you touched on Engels. By the way, as a player there, that's a player.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, oozing class. A night, a moment, the ball spun up in the air. It was miles in the air. It came down, and he just gracefully trapped it knee, killed it stone dead. Looked up, made a pass, and right away you're like, "This is a player. This is not something you see every week."
There's an elegance to him, isn't there, Mike?
And the thing that I think the real thing that I think stood out as well. He's so physical. I mean, he's a big lumpy boy.
Mm-hmm.
He can get about the pitch. He's and what he's got the John McGinn backside as well. He's got at one point he get the ball into his feet and 2 guys are behind him and he bumped the 2 of them his backside out the way. You think he's got a John McGinn bum on him as well. So he looks like a full package. I mean, I thought he was a complete Rolls Royce last night. He looked every inch a Champions League player. He looked a mile above the levels at Bratislava. Just, I mean that
he's already on all the dead balls as well, Mick, isn't he?
Well,
great corner for the opening goal. Brilliant corner.
Yeah. You know, whip on the corner kick. I mean, he hit a free kick into the wall as well. But he got a good dig. I mean, the one in the first half was early and took the hands off the goalkeeper with a shot. So he's not scared to have a dig. The boy just looks top notch. I mean, it's only his second full appearance in a couple of some appearances against Rangers. He just looks a touch of class.
You do look at it, Mike, and you think, see this kind of second string we're talking about that's going to get sent out against Falkirk the weekend, most likely. Celtic could probably put that team out in the Premier League, in the Premiership, and still be pretty much red hot favourites to win the thing. So they've actually by bringing in, by raising this level, I think they are now moving into a different stratosphere from the rest. Rangers are in bits across the city. They're stumbling from one kind of catastrophe to the next, and one manager to the next, and then you've actually they're almost getting to a situation similar to what damaged Sunderland all those years ago when they had a dressing room with the players from about 6 different managers in there, and it was just sort of this never-ending chaos. That's the situation Rangers are in with very little money. Celtic are sitting with piles and piles in the bank, more coming in by the day, and they've actually spent properly on real quality, on a quality which, from a position that they were already in complete dominance domestically, they look a bit as if they're moving up again and maybe moving away so far into the distance that there's just no way anybody from Scotland. And one of the guys just said that in the comments. You know, they are leaving the rest of Scotland behind.
You look untouchable, don't they, in the home front? Really, you've got to be honest. If you're watching that last night, and again, you got to. I don't know where you'd pitch Bratislava in terms of ability. Are they better than the rest of teams in Scotland? Are they better than Rangers? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I thought the game was quite similar to the Rangers game, to be honest with you. They beat Midfield in the way to get to the European to the group stages, so they can't be mugs really. But I don't know where they are, where you pitch them.
I think they're a reasonably competent side. I think that's what you would.
I think so. Aye. But if you're watching that as a domestic rival, watching that, haven't played Celtic yet, you're thinking, yeah, they don't look touchable in that kind of form. Nobody's getting close to them. Listen, they're going to have dips when they don't play as well. They weren't that great against Hearts on Saturday, to be honest with you.
No.
Excuse me.
But they were as good as they needed to be, Mick, and that's the thing.
Yeah, and they can freshen up. We touched on the squad thing. They can freshen up. I mean, listen, Engels can't. He's going to have periods of time when he's a young kid. He's just come in the door. The instant euphoria will wear off, and there will be times when he is a bit a dip. So that's going to happen at some point. But like you say, you could mix it up. There's Bernardo as a performer they can rely on as well. Luke McCown, I think, is going to be a cracking signing for Celtic eventually as well. So they've got so many options in there that they can afford these dips.
Yeah, I'm not even sure it's dips because see whether it's the Saturday domestic scene. If you're bringing in a Luke McCown's going to be absolutely busting to get out there and make an impression, to leave a mark. So, you know, not only are you bringing in quality back and allowing your kind of first picks to take a bit of time off in between a hectic kind of schedule, but the guys that you are bringing on, they're all desperate, absolutely desperate to get out there, show what they can do, and play their way into the manager's mind for, you know, is he worth a starting place in the Champions League through the week? So I just don't see where Celtic drop off here. I just think it's going to become a really relentless campaign. I won't have any apologies about reminding you again, Daniel, that I've predicted that Celtic will bust through the 100-point barrier in the league this year. And every time I see them now, I'm more and more convinced that's going to be the case.
Aye.
But if we're going to make some wild predictions that come back to haunt you, how about Arnie Engels will break Celtic's transfer record eventually down the line?
Well, actually, see on that, Mick, we've had a lot of comments on him, right? And I'll throw this one at you.
I'll get slaughter for even mentioning the fact they're leaving on the door 2 minutes. I mean, a couple of years before anyone starts going nuts.
In the January transfer window, says Mick.
He's trying to get him sold already.
Andreas Borgesson on Facebook. Engels, just
wow.
wow.
I'm all right. I'm safe.
60 to 70 million in a couple of seasons. He's on a whole other level. Every team in Scotland should just be proud that such a world-class player plays here. Scott McIntyre agrees.
That's a bit more bold than I was. I was just suggesting he'll go for more than 26. But
£11 million, an absolute bargain, says Scott McIntyre. And I'll throw this one at both of you guys as well. We had this comment asking essentially, who is? He says here, is Maeda Celtic's most important player? If he's not, who would you rate as Celtic's most important player at the minute?
Cal McGregor.
He can't.
He's the glue. He's the one that binds the whole thing together. He's the leader. I think he's an inspiration. You know, when you hear him, the way that he talks to these guys, he is the guy. He's the absolute go-to guy for Brendan Rodgers. You've got all sorts of array of talent around about him. Engels looks as if he's going to be different class, as we're saying. Hatate's non-stop, you know, top level. And yes, Maeda, you know, his work rate is just phenomenal. If only he could finish, if only he could be relied upon in the final third, then
Jacko,
you know, he wouldn't be at Celtic. He wouldn't be at Celtic. I know that.
It'd be 200 million quid if he could rely on to finish.
Yeah.
he couldn't afford to buy him. I mean,
but his work rate is phenomenal, and you know, on nights like that, you know, he genuinely does put in the work of two players. down that flank. It is quite astonishing to watch, whether it's in the Old Firm games or in Champions League and European nights. The miles he covers just ridiculous.
It's preposterous. He done it last night. It was 5-1, and there's about 3 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And he 60 yards to chase a boy down, and you actually felt like saying to him, "Dyson, chill out.
Calm down."
You've done your work. Just chill out. You've done your job." I mean, unbelievable work rate. I mean, he's rolling the team. I take the point, by the way. It's so important for the Celtic play. I mean, it's just absolutely relentless. He could have had a hat trick last night. He took his goal really, really well. I mean, he's got it in his locker. If he doesn't think about it, he's got it in his locker. He is not understanding why he's got kind of, he's not even got cult hero status. He's got hero status among Celtic fans because of all this kind of stuff. But what I've seen as well, it's actually a bit of a surprise actually, is the emergence of Nicholas Kuhn. Not so much as an attacking player. I think they knew he's a bit about him in terms of he's a good left peg and he can beat a man and all that stuff. He's quick, but his work rate going the other direction, I thought was actually really noticeable last night.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like he was trying to take a leaf from the Maida handbook and said, well, I can do that too. And he was doubling up. Is that side with Arthur Johnson? He was helping cover that side with Weiss as well. Done a power of work, absolute power of work down that flank, and not all of it was steam. So he's another one who's come on leaps and bounds. I mean, last year we know these problems. Last year we know the story about his teeth and all that stuff and losing weight. I could do some of that myself. Actually, I could do a tooth myself. That would do me some good.
You want your jaws wired?
I'm going to get a colour tooth pulled out to see if I lose a stone. But the transformation in him this season has been really huge. I think, and that's I think it's impressed the most.
I think you've hit on something there. See the energy levels in this Celtic side just now. They're really impressive, and I think a lot was made about the sort of energy levels under Ange Postecoglou. Celtic look fit as anything at the start of this season. They are gobbling up the ground all over the pitch, whether it's the full backs getting forward, whether it's the wingers coming back the way, whether it's the guys in midfield doing, doggies both lengths of the pitch. I just think the level of fitness, they look as if they are seriously athletic bunch. And Engels adds to that as well.
Do you know what I've noticed as well, though? See, in that point, I think is really interesting because I think, yes, they've got the same intensity and speed that they had under Postecoglou, but they're smarter with it because they do take time. Rodgers was one. I know his first spell in charge. He spoke about this about you do your resting with the ball, whereas Celtic under Postecoglou didn't do the resting with the ball. They lost the ball because every pass was a gamble.
Yeah,
not every pass is a gamble with Celtic now. It's more concentrated. So I think Rodgers' structure is got the intensity, but it's more disciplined. And they do their resting with the ball rather than giving it away every 5 seconds and having to win it back.
Mick, there was a moment in the first half that illustrates that point perfectly. And I think Bratislava had tried to get forward. Celtic snuffed it out. The ball got fizzed into Callum McGregor, and Callum McGregor looked outside and shuttled it on to Hatate. And you're thinking Celtic could break here. But they were in such control. Hatate just put his foot in the ball, turned round the other way, just knocked it back the way, and they just kept possession. It was exactly what you're talking about. Under Postecoglou, that ball goes forward to Maeda or Kyogo or whatever, and Celtic try and breakneck at 100 miles an hour, breakneck speed. But last night, there was that extra element of composure where you don't have to do it all the time. You can keep the ball for a while. Yeah,
this is what I'm talking about. And a lot of times, the Postecoglou, they tanked after an hour. And the good thing he had was he had subs he could bring on and freshen it up. And the guys that were tanked got replaced with equal ability players. I don't think Celtic get as tanked as it did in that era as they do now. I think that it's more controlled. I think it's more bursts and pulses of intensity because they can take the swing out of it and keep the ball. Because they keep possession pretty well, Celtic. Champions League level, it's harder. And especially at the back, that's where there are going to be questions asked because they're asking guys to be really good on the ball when it's going to be difficult. I think you've seen last night. I mean, did you see the pass from Schmeichel early on? To the 6 yard box. They broke the line to McGregor. Not the
That's right. When Bratislava thought they had them penned in.
Aye.
What a goal. That's one that made a blast over the bar eventually down the pitch. I mean, that kind of football is the one that gets punters deep breaths, don't they? But Schmeichel is so composed in that position, he can do that. That gets harder as you got the levels. In the Champions League, it's hard because if you do lose the ball, you're giving it to somebody who can really punish you. Whereas in Scotland, it's not the case. So that's going to be a test. But I think Celtic have got a more disciplined approach to it under Rodgers this season.
Do you know what's interesting, Mick, as well? We'll mention Postecoglou, and I don't think it will come as any surprise to Celtic fans to see that Spurs had so many injury problems last year. And when Big Ange went down there, he lit the place up. People are going, "What is this?" And just the same way as he did when he brought his football to Glasgow. But nobody would be surprised to see the number of injuries pile up as the season went on, because it happened with Celtic as well. And you wonder if that is part of it. Those little kind of lulls or periods within games where you don't have to go at it 100 miles an hour. You wonder if that is a kind of smarter approach. And Postecoglou again, he's started off this season not with his troubles to seek at Spurs, and you actually. I know that when he left, Celtic fans were heartbroken. Some of them probably didn't want Brendan Rodgers back as the replacement. But, I was calling at the time, and I said that it has to be Brendan Rodgers. He has to be the guy, because, he's different from Postecoglou, but he's the same in terms of he's elite. He's elite. He knows what he's doing. And maybe there is a smarter approach to the same sort of high-tempo attacking style of play.
See, just on that, Keith. I mean, we know that Brendan Rodgers had a bit of a rocky patch last season. You think of the Hearts and Kilmarnock back-to-back defeats, but to go back to what you were saying, Mick, about Kuhn, you look at Scales, you look at Alistair Johnson, even Greg Taylor. You're starting to see now, working under, as Keith says, an elite manager, how much they've come on, how much they've improved. I mean, Kuhn, when he first came in, I think a lot of Celtic fans thought he'll no do. And Liam Scales was seen as 18 months ago playing as Darvel for Aberdeen. And look at him last night. He was
getting beaten by Darvel.
Exactly, but he was outstanding last night. And I do think I think you have to look at Brendan Rodgers, as Keith says, an elite manager.
I think he had a more difficult job coming in last season than people thought, and he thought.
Yeah, I think he realised, Mick, that's the crucial part.
You know what? Sometimes it's harder to take over a winning team than is a team that's on its knees. If you've got a dressing room that's struggling, the players naturally are looking for a saviour to tell them how to make things better. If you look at a dressing room that's won a treble, and some guy says, "I want you to do this differently," the natural, I'm not saying that he met resistance, but the natural feeling is, well, it worked all right last year. Now he's telling us we're going to do it differently. And I think it took him a bit of time to get that message across. And eventually the penny dropped towards the second half of the season. It wasn't helped with injuries and a few other things and all that stuff as well. But I think once the penny dropped and he got his own style and approach across, and they started getting results, and it started working really well. I mean, if you look at the body of results going back to I think they lost it against Hearts in the springtime. Since then, I mean, they're literally averaging 3 goals a game at home and now in Europe. I mean, it's phenomenal the form they've showed since kind of February, March, and the message is finally getting across. I think the players now trust the manager as much as he trusts them. And then when you bring in guys like Engels and Ida and all that stuff, the guys who are there, it might have took a bit of time to win over. Are always going, by the way, this guy just signed an absolute Rolls Royce. The trust level's up again. So now I think the relationship now is more solid than it's ever been since he came back. And you're really seeing it on the park. He's now got his own message across. Listen, I wouldn't be knocking Postecoglou. I think he did really well.
Aye.
Even in Europe, I thought some of it was naive, but I thought in spells he played really, really well, and it threatened that if he got another crack at it, he might have got. It wasn't quite as idealistic as some made out. At times could be, but not completely. But I think what you're now seeing is Rodgers. He's got his full autonomy and imprint on this team, and they're all on board as well. And it's firing all full cylinders.
See, just before we move on from Celtic, we could talk about them all night, obviously, but Michael Hoy has written in saying that this is the best Celtic team since Martin O'Neill's team. But who'd win if Martin O'Neill's team and this current side squared off? First of all, do you both agree that it is the best Celtic team since
I think it's the
Larson,
strongest
Sutton?
Celtic squad. I said that the other night. I think this is the strongest squad that Celtic have taken into a European campaign since back around 2003.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree, Mick?
I think Rodgers 2016 was good. I mean, listen, I wouldn't write off Neil Lennon 2013 kind of team, Barcelona and all that stuff. Squad wise, I take a point. Martin O'Neill's team. See, the thing is, see the context is right. Martin O'Neill had literally signed a guy who broke the British transfer record twice in Chris Sutton, right? He also had Henrik Larsson, who was probably at that time one of the top 5 paid players in Britain, right? Celtic's wage bill at that time would have been in the top 6, 8 in the UK at that time. You're talking Premier League level. Celtic, that for all intents and purposes, were a Premier League team at that time. The game's changed in 20 years.
I don't think that was the size of the wage bill. I mean, Martin O'Neill was very clever in what he did. And
Last time was 40 grand a week. Last time was 40 grand a week. There's nobody at Parkhead in 40 grand a week now.
He wasn't in 40 grand a week when he signed from Feyenoord.
No, but his contract when he signed it, when he got a chance to leave, was made him one of the highest paid. Alan Shearer was in 42 grand a week at the time. He was one of the highest paid players in the UK at the time. So, I mean, Celtic, no wonder they beat Liverpool and Blackburn and all these teams because they were a match for them. That's the reality. I mean, Celtic signed Chris Sutton, £10 million Chelsea signing, £5 million at Blackburn, twice broke the British record. See that now? That's £150 million now to do that.
Yeah, no, I think when Martin O'Neill was clever, I mean, Celtic wouldn't have got Chris Sutton had they been bidding against Chelsea for him at the time. They got him because things weren't going well at Chelsea. He was a bit damaged, bruised, and Martin O'Neill was clever enough to think, you know what, I can pick him up for a snip, and what a player he'll be.
Yeah, but
and John Hartson, similar category. So there was a lot of clever. It wasn't as if they were going in against Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea.
No, I get that.
Outbidding people for.
But Rangers are guys that were signing from Barcelona and half the Dutch team and all that stuff at that time. I mean, to do that now is unthinkable.
Yeah, that's true.
So the dynamics have completely changed in 20 odd years. I think this is a right good Celtic team. But to get compared to that team, they need to do something in Europe this year or any year. They need, that'll be the benchmark, as old Martin O'Neill used to say. If they get
and let's not get lost or distracted from the target. The target has been and remains, regardless of people might start running around with their hair on fire because it's such a brilliant start. Not fine, get excited. That's your job as a fan. The job for Brendan Rodgers and the players remains the same. We focused on it right from the start, and it is to reach these playoffs. And if Celtic can get to the playoffs, you mark this down as, do you know what? That is progress. That's a reasonably successful European campaign, and more successful than anything the club's experienced in a while. But it's steps at this point, and the first step, 100%. If they can get into the playoffs for a place in the last 16, you say, well done, Celtic. What a good season that's been.
And see, just to go back to Michael's question, are we all in agreement that Martin O'Neill's team would still beat this current Celtic team? I think they would.
I think Martin O'Neill's side would take a bit of beating, especially when you get Henrik Larsson in his prime.
Because they not only had players like Larsson and the talent, but they were some of them were an absolute unit. Mialbi, Baldi, Valharin. They could do everything in that Celtic team.
You also
Dan Petrov, Lambert in midfield.
Paul Lambert, European Cup winner. These guys, that's a strong team.
That was a special team, actually, when you think back to it. That was mad. Right, as I say, we could talk about Celtic all night, guys, but before we wrap up, I think we should move across the city and talk about Rangers, because this weekend...
Daniel, do you actually think, how many are we here? 39 minutes into the night show, do you think there's any Rangers fans that tuned in that still listen to this?
That's a very fair point, Keith, to be fair, but listen, we're professionals. They're back at Ibrox this weekend, and in today's record sport, Barry Ferguson, Rangers legend, seems to think that this could be the turning point for the season. Back at Ibrox, a packed house, obviously Dundee in the cup. Do you agree? Do you think this could be a big boost for them?
I think I know where he's coming from. In terms of Rangers are looking for anything right now to use as a sort of lever to turn their season around. And I do think there actually will be. I think it will certainly improve the mood of the fans when now that they're back inside their own stadium. I do see it as a positive for Rangers. Whether or not it turns the season around, well, that remains to be seen. I'm not entirely sure, as you said there, it's going to be a packed Ibrox. It's a League Cup game. It's not in the season book, and half of the Copeland Road stand won't be open. So I think it might be a little bit eerie to begin with. Maybe not. Maybe the Rangers fans will be so delighted to be there that they'll come back in their numbers and the atmosphere will be fantastic. But I do think the club is so fragmented right now that maybe, I think what Barry's point is, and I think he's right, the fact that they're finally in after, this period of being homeless, the fact that they're back in there, maybe back all under the one roof, it's almost symbolic if they can all come together. But we're seeing, the divisions ripping through the boardroom right now as well. You've got Dave King on the outside booting at the door again. I don't expect it's the last we've heard from him. So there is this kind of soap opera feel to Rangers right now. So maybe getting back inside their own stadium might help settle some of that, but probably not for very long.
To play devil's advocate, Mick, I kind of feel like maybe it's not the kind of blessing that Rangers fans might think it is. Maybe it's a little bit of a burden. They're going through a really hard time at the moment. If they start to play really badly in front of their home fans would get on top of them. Do you share that view?
Maybe they're getting top of them at Hampden.
Aye, that's true. That's true, of course.
Yeah, I think that would happen. I think it's a results-based business. That's just the nature of the game. They need to win matches, and they've certainly got to win this one. It does look a bit perilous, I must admit. I mean, like you say, late kick-off, cup tie, maybe not a full place. There's a definite feeling that Rangers just now, it's just bubbling under, that there's a lot of discontent, a lot of people unhappy. It's just threatening to kind of boil over, isn't it? I mean, Dundee are a good side as well. I mean, I think they've had a bit up and down this year. Defensively, they lost a few goals, but they're a good side, capable on their day of causing problems to anyone. Rangers could do, which I said before, they need to get a run of wins under their belt, just to alleviate that pressure, because it's always going to be there until the next bump in the road, and it'll blow up again. So they're discontent. They're still, I mean, now the chairman is gone, and they're still looking for the CEO and the director of football. No, they're not academies. It's a lot of things need to be in place for Rangers right now. It's a wee bit rudderless, and the team itself is quite unconvincing at this stage. The manager's under pressure. It's just all bubbling under. They just need a period of calm and a period of results. And going out the cup this weekend is unthinkable for them, really. Because if they don't get through this match, it'll be hell to pay. They'll kick off again.
And Mick, the emotions are always heightened in this part of the world when the side on the other side of the city is doing well. So it'll just peak the sort of emotions of the Rangers fans that they're sitting there seeing Celtic romping off to a 5-1 win in the first game of the Champions League. They knew look Champions League and everything's going great. And I think that heightens the anger levels and probably shortens the levels of patience as well. So yeah, there's no room for error for Rangers this weekend. They better give themselves a good welcome back party. I do think the mood of the fans might be eased a little bit. Or improved a little bit by the fact that they're returning to their own seats.
Yeah,
I think that'll make them feel a bit better about life before a ball's kicked.
Yeah, I think so too. That removes one level of uncertainty that's been hanging over them for a while. Getting back to the home ground, but again, it's down to Philip Clement and his team to start producing. The punters are missing. We're talking about Celtic fans loving what they're seeing. Rangers fans need a bit of enjoyment at the game again. I mean, need to actually start enjoying watching their team again.
Yeah,
that's up to Clement and his players to give the punters something to cheer about, because there's not been much.
Do you know what, Mick? You're absolutely spot on, and I wonder. I think that's one reason why you might see Igamani thrown in from the start. Now that actually might be a little bit unfair on the boy. We're having an absolute disaster, man. Any chance you could go and take Cyril Dessers shut for the weekend? But you feel the Rangers fans are just looking for something to cling on to, and they've seen in a couple of cameo roles they've seen enough to think there's reason to be excited. I think they might be right, but what a weight of responsibility. This whole thing is carnage this season. Any chance, young lads, you could just step up and make everybody go away and shut up?
Yeah, Rangers need to see progression. They need to see. I'm not talking about the stadium and the boards and all that stuff. I'm talking about on the pitch. They need to see progression. If they can see something, a cohesive plan, and a team that is getting better week by week. Listen, I think most Rangers fans now think the league, there's no chance. And the more every week they see Celtic running away, they think, right, look, this year's not going to happen. And I think they would accept it if they see a team that is going places.
Yeah,
that means the performances are improving gradually. There's players that are exciting them. They see some nice football at times. They'll accept the odd bump in the road then if in between times they can see progression. At the moment, they're not seeing progression.
Exactly.
Uncertainty. They need, like you say, they need something, a bit of excitement, a bit of fun, and a bit of progression to hang on to. And I think they will accept the other stuff if they see that. But they need to see it. And
grudgingly.
Yeah, but I think they're not daft. Listen, come on, it's knocked 10 million quid off the wage bill. It's shot at the big earners and all that stuff. It is this rebuild that teams don't really get chances to rebuild, right? Especially Celtic Rangers, they don't get a chance to rebuild, but he is getting a chance to rebuild. So they will be a bit patient with it in that respect if they see progress.
You're absolutely right, mate.
Aye. A couple of live comments that I need to hit you with before we go. George Robertson, he says, build a statue for Maida, biggest work rate from a footballer in Scotland ever. And this one...
You need to get him to stand still to pose for it.
Good point, aye. Rangers, easy okay. Would love to see a front three of Cortez, Igamane, Cherny and Bajrami. Just being a
That's
totally...
four.
That is four, actually, isn't it?
4-man front three and a 5-man back four.
Stitch me right up there. But he also says, if we see an improvement week on week, don't even look at Celtic and then see where we are the time the New Year derby comes around. Just need to improve game by game.
That is the right attitude for Rangers fans. They actually do need to try and put the blinkers on, try not to worry about, the speed of Celtic's improvement and just worry about themselves and hope that their team can start to build something. As Mick says, I think one of the first things that they need to do is get a more clearly defined style of play. I'm starting to see flashes of it. I think they're playing it quicker through midfield, which makes them, I think a more exciting side to watch. As long as when you're playing it quickly through midfield and through the lines, you need some quality up front, some stardust. And so that's that's interesting. You can understand why Rangers fans are saying, well, if that's the style of play and we're getting it fired up the pitch more quickly into the feet of more talented players, because it's fine firing the ball up the top, but if it's Ross McCausland and Scott Wright and Cyril Dessers, there's not much to get excited about with the best will in the world. And I think that the style of play may hinge upon the individual quality of the guys in the last third. So I think that is something that Rangers fans will be clinging to.
One last thing as well, guys. Champions League results, half-time results at the moment. Feyenoord 0, Bayer Leverkusen 4 at half-time. Wow. And Red Star Belgrade 0, Benfica 2.
That Feyenoord game's in Rotterdam as well. They will not be enjoying that.
Absolutely.
There'll be riots in the ski hut tonight. That's the pub. That's a good pub in Rotterdam. I was told. I never saw it myself, but apparently it's a good pub.
Right, Mike.
Ski hut. That may have been visited at some point in recent years.
And on that note, I think that brings us to the end of today's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you very much for all of your comments. We will be back on Sunday following Celtic's League Cup tie with Falkirk. Keith, Mick, thank you very much.
Have a good weekend.
Catch you later, chaps. Have a good one. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thanks for watching at home. Cheers.